Are you currently spending part of your budget on a direct mail campaign, or perhaps you're getting lost somewhere on a big billboard in your local community? Or perhaps you've even tried racking up a bundle on TV or radio ads without any return on investment. Well, in today's session, let's really talk about how to go new school versus old school and how to really create a top notch advertising and marketing toolkit that is sustainable over time, is current and keeping up with new trends, and will really make a difference for you. So, I want to talk specifically about one of my favorite tools. And years ago, a colleague happened to mention something about Google Ads. So I thought I would, give it a try. Well, it's been quite a whirlwind, and it's a world that's been going on for over 15 years for me. I literally sat myself down every weekend and I taught myself the fundamentals as well as a lot of the complexities of Google advertising. So over time, what I was able to do was I built the Google Ads account into one of the main drivers of yield at a private boarding and day school. And I served there for over 11 years as a director of admission. I also juggled the role of marketing, and I started out as the director of summer programs. So I really know all too well how easy it is to test and try various things and then feel very frustrated by the return that you really look for in terms of actual enrollments. So I want you to really focus on your key drivers. And I talk about the key drivers of yield in another blog and one of my YouTube videos. But typically, for most private boarding and day schools, the drivers of actual enrollments come down to Google related tactics. Your website is your main hub, but the two key spokes of that wheel are your search engine optimization tactics and your search engine marketing, which is your PPC Google Ads campaign. Now, in that mix, you probably have referrals, hopefully, at the top of your heap, driving actual enrollments, and you also may have some referral websites, and you may have some other promotions and advertising that are really actually creating return on investment. But you really want to stay focused. And one of my key focal points was on Google advertising and how I could really maximize that platform. Now, some of you may say, I just don't have the expertise. I don't have the time. I know that the learning curve is going to be fairly steep, and I just don't want to start at square one. And I've heard many people just say that, it was a waste of money and time. But believe me, if you focus on this in a very strategic way and you seek out the appropriate expertise, you can really get a tremendous return on investment. And it's very measurable. I mean, Google advertising has reports and metrics, but beyond that, your Google Analytics, which analyzes everything on your website, traffic, is an incredible tool. It tells you what's happening with your landing pages, with your demographic information. It tells you about keywords that are working. It tells you the pieces of the pie that are driving traffic to your site, the paid, the PPC, your referral sites, your social media, your email newsletters, your blogs, all of the different initiatives that are part of your marketing toolkit. So maybe, you're reluctant to dive into Google Ads, but that's why I'm here. I mean, I've literally walked in your shoes, and I learned this very strategically, and I now have really good Google strategists that work alongside me and really support me as I'm working with clients. And they really stay on top of all of the algorithms and the various nuances of Google Ads. But it does take time to acquire expertise. So if you don't have the patience, you're not an analytical type, or you don't have a passion for this platform, that's okay. Just be, willing to admit that and make a strategic decision about to best proceed. So that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today, because this journey for me has been extremely rewarding. And I really enjoy doing the Google Ads for clients because it's one of those platforms where it's so measurable. You can really do A and B testing very readily. You can really do very specific targeting. You know, you can target specific locations where your enrollments are actually coming from. You can target income levels. You can target audiences, parents looking for K through 12 private schools, for instance. You can schedule the ads at the right times of the day when your office is open. You can embed your brand identity and your key messaging. And then you can really do some testing on your landing pages to see what is working best. So let me tell you a little bit about just some of the core lessons that I learned along the way. First of all, as I stated earlier, Google Ads is a fairly complex platform, but the basics can be mastered with some support and training. So if you're open to it, I work with some clients who want me to train them, or they want me to set things up, and then they want someone internally to take it from there, or they may have a small firm doing a whole host of things that they assign it to. But you want to make sure you get it right. And really, you want to make sure that you're managing it almost every day of the week. And so I make a point of looking at my Google Ads client account 5 out of every 7 days. And there are certain periods when I will look at it 7 days out of the week, when I'm first getting started or during critical changes that I'm making, because almost every day in that platform, Google has a list of recommendations. And if you're not 100% optimized, then they're going to show you what you need to do. And at minimum, you need to take those steps. But you also need to do a whole rotation where every day you're looking at something different. One day you may be looking at the ads. Another day you may be looking at your keywords. Another day you may be looking at your settings. I do a whole series of rotations so that I really stay on top of my accounts. Now, in terms of goals, if you don't know your goals, then you need to establish them. And you certainly need to talk to me about them, or the staff member that you assign, or the agency that you're using to map out a plan, because Google wants to know what your goals are. Is it to be at the top of the funnel and just build brand awareness? Well, most of us don't have the budget to really do that. Nike and Apple and big corporations can afford display advertising, so they're at the top of the funnel and they're generating that brand awareness. But you really need to know what your goal is. And for most private schools, you want more leads that will convert to applications. And you want more applications that have the potential to convert to bona fide enrollments. So in order to meet your goals, you have to do a number of key things. You have to check your data. You have to analyze that data. You have to interpret that data and then convert that data awareness into action steps. It's not enough just to look at data and go, okay, well, you had 10 leads today. Well, where did the leads come from? What quality are they? Are some of those, inquiries applications, or are they all just inquiry forms? Are some of those inquiries calls that came in, or are they emails that came in, or are they just request information forms? So you really need to drill down, and you need to analyze, interpret, and take action steps. You need to ask a lot of questions. So you need to know, how many leads are you getting per day? How many applications are you getting? And is that giving you your enrollment yield that you need? So if you have, a board set goal to hit a specific target to get to capacity with a wait list, then you have to make sure that that daily drill that you're doing and the leads and applications are going to get you there. And so as a director of admission, a director of marketing, you need to really be on top of that. And this is where admission and marketing really synergize. And that's why I juggled both roles, because they are so synergistic. So you need to know also, when you look at your funnel, what your conversion rate is from the point of inquiry to the application level to your actual enrollments. And you can drill that down even deeper. But your funnel should really take you from that inquiry level, and then you can break that down into calls, emails, request info forms, applications. And then you can drill that down on your funnel to how many applications you received. And you may even drill that down by grade level if you want to be that specific. And then how many of those actually converted to an appointment? Perhaps you want to do that piece. How many of them completed their full application? And then how many of the parents and families accepted the offer of enrollment? How many people did you decline? And how many families declined you? And then what do you have on your opening day for enrollment? And then what you have at spring, if you do roll or offer spring transfers. Your media tracker should do that job for you. Now, you can create a media tracker on a simple Excel spreadsheet. That's what I did many years ago. It detailed every single marketing initiative. And then I tracked that on a daily basis, so I knew what my totals were for each month. And then I was able to do the average, the daily average for applications and for leads. But some of you, and many of you, have a rather robust CRM, and client relationship management systems are now replacing a lot of the things that we used to do by hand. So if you've got a great CRM, lean into that. Make sure your dashboards are set up properly. Make sure that you have year-over-year analysis. Because that is one of the key things that you really want to know and look at on a year-over-year basis. You want to look at the how here data. How did people hear about you, and how did that change from one year to the next? Some marketing initiatives will change year over year, but your mainstay, your main toolkit, your main drivers of actual enrollments should remain pretty much the same. And then, of course, you want to synergize your platforms. So, at the center of your wheel is your website. And then the spokes would include your SEO tactics, your search engine marketing, your SEM, Google Ads, and then all of the other marketing initiatives. That would be your social media, your publicity, your blogs, all of the different potential drivers. But do really ask yourself the question, are you getting actual enrollments from direct mail? You're lucky if you get 0.5% return on direct mail. Print advertising. You know what? Maybe it's useful to be in some local directories that cost very, very low amounts, but don't spend on print advertising. It's very expensive, very hard to track, and you get very little return on investment. And so I'm really trying to encourage you to go new school, not lean back into old school, and not lean into some of these very expensive forms of advertising. Very few private schools can afford television and radio and print. And even if they can, what are they getting from it? Is it a wise use of their budget? The other thing you really need to do is you've got to be able to test new markets. And so you want to use platforms where you can do that successfully. And digital advertising allows you to do that. In particular, Google Ads gives you that demographic targeting capability. And also Facebook has very good capability for drilling down into the audience that you want. Parents with teens ages 13 to 17, if you are a middle and high school, for instance. Parents with incomes in the top 10% or 20% of income brackets. You can drill down into the locations that make sense for you. All of this is part of what I really do during a discovery process with clients, is to really find out where their enrollments have come from in the past, where their current enrollments and applications are coming from right now, and how we can convert that into marketing initiatives that we can measure and track and convert into real bona fide enrollments. The other thing you have to consider when you look at Google Ads is it's expensive. It can be expensive, but it can also be whatever you choose for it to be. I mean, Google has no problem. If you want to start at $5 a day or $10 a day, go for it. But for most private schools now, I mean, a healthy budget depends on where your enrollment situation is. So for instance, I worked with one client and they're pretty much at capacity. And so do they need a real big budget for Google Ads? Probably not. But can they drive a lot of traffic for key open house events that they're hosting, or during certain time periods, or at the tail end of their push in the spring if they haven't filled all the seats, or maybe they had some fallout and they need that last minute push to get back to capacity with a wait list? Absolutely. So you want to analyze your data. You want to do the math and determine how much an enrollment is costing in advertising dollars. And then you want to benchmark that. And then you want to segment each and every initiative. So a Google ad may cost more than a referral and review promotion, for instance, or a Facebook advertising your Facebook advertising campaigns may be much lower. But you need to know what is the cost level for each and how many actual enrollments you're getting from each of these initiatives. And then you need to establish that spend. And, there are schools spending anywhere from, less than $1,000 a month to over $100,000 annually. It just depends on how critical they see, Google advertising being in their drivers of enrollment, and whether they are at capacity and what their goals are. But if you're chasing enrollments by the late spring or summer, you should really think about making sure that you have Google Ads as part of your marketing mix, and you probably should have a spend on the higher side. The other thing that you need to think about is who's going to have access to your Google Ads campaign. Well, just be careful. If you hire an outside firm or agency, make sure that you have ownership for the account. I've seen so many nonprofits and schools kind of lose sight of their account. They don't really know the questions they to ask because they never go into the account. They really don't witness the A/B testing that needs to take place. They really don't voice their concerns about the ads as they are written and the messaging. And at the end of the day, if you discontinue with a service provider, they may just say, well, sorry, but you're part of our bundle, and we, really don't give independent account access because we manage so many accounts. But I really encourage you to set it up so that the account is under your school's name, you have ownership of that account, and that the agency goes into your account. That's what I do for my clients. Um, and then establish someone internally that's going to have standard or admin level access. Usually that's the director of marketing or director of admission, would want to have some access. Or maybe even the business office will want to have access if they want to set up the billing. Because oftentimes they'll want to use an ACH account or a credit card, and they won't want to disclose that to an agency or firm. They may not even want to disclose it to you if you're the director of marketing or admission. But I think it is wise, but do make sure that you don't play around in the account. If you are outsourcing this to a firm like Aperture, we want to make sure that you're not changing a lot of things, because there should be just one person that really is the driver. And then the people that are on the internal side of the house, they should be the ones that are looking at the account periodically with the firm and then making suggestions. Most of my clients, I will meet with them, weekly or every other week for that reason, so that I can keep them updated and posted, and so they can chime in on things that they think are necessary. Last but not least is billing. So, as I said, make sure that you consult with the business office so that they can either upload the payment preferences or give that information to someone internally, or give that to the firm that you hire. Make sure that they have their statements for audit purposes. Typically, the business office will need those statements at the end of the year, but they may want those on a monthly basis, because Google does bill in increments, typically of $500. So you need to make sure you add a little bit of a cushion. Google reserves the right to tip over just a little bit, and that budget may fluctuate on a daily basis. So say you're spending $50 a day, one day it may be 75, but the next day it may only be 40. So they are doing kind of an averaging. This is a very, very complex and sophisticated way of approaching advertising and marketing for your private school. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I offer a 60-minute complimentary consultation, no cost or obligation. And if you're, interested at the end of the call in me submitting a proposal to you, I'm happy to do that. I currently have a special package that I'm offering. It's $500 for initial setup, and most firms, charge $1,000 to $1,500 at least for setup, and then they charge you 10% to 15% of your spend, or they charge usually at least $1,000 a month. So I'm just $500 to set up, and $500 per month at Aperture Advisory Associates. And I do check the account 4 to 5 times per week, and I am the one that would be managing your account. So it wouldn't be turned over to someone that's one of my partners. So I hope this information has been helpful to you. Please reach out by email or phone at the email and phone noted below here, info@apertureadvisory.com or 760-805-5136. Or visit our website, apertureadvisory.com, to see all of this content on my respective blogs. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this is helpful to you and hope to talk to you soon. Always remember, open your aperture. Be open to new school versus old school. Thank you so much. Subscribe, like, and share.